Welcome to the Dare Real Agile episode 51. I'm your host, Coach AF, known as my real name, Alexandre Frédéric Joly. And today you are going to see live on LinkedIn, especially on LinkedIn, 1 hour of the amazing 95 minutes conversation I had the opportunity and the honor to have with a purple man, a purple squirrel, Rijon Erickson. So we are going to show it as a live. But authentically, this is not a live. That was pre-recorded when two busy entrepreneurs were available to have an open conversation on open humanity, open space humanity. So stay to the end and you will know how to listen and download the entire podcast as well as watching the entire conversation, open mic that we had together. But for some user experience reason here on LinkedIn, we cannot make a video more than 1 hour if it's pre-recorded. So enjoy this Friday, April the 28th, Dare Real Agile, episode 51, with my great colleague and friend, Rijon Erickson. Cheers and stay tuned. Once again to the Dare Real Agile podcast. I'm your host, Coach AF, known by his real name, Alexandre Frédéric Joly. And this month I have something, an open mic, an open conversation in the series of the Agile Wars, but actually I don't know where this is going. So be with me. And for my jogger club out there, you're going to run with a great friend of mine. This is Rijon. Did I pronounce it well?
You did perfectly.
Perfectly. So welcome to the Dare Real Agile podcast, where we talk all things business agility, Scrum, but the life in general and everything about the human interaction. And today I'd like to know who you are, what do you do, and why you're here.
Who am I? I started life as just a young person, rural Indiana, a musician. I studied music in school. I learned to play the cornet first, improvised jazz as a first grader at Indiana State University Laboratory School, Terre Haute, Indiana. And I got the jazz bug. I learned the love of music at a young age and went to college to study jazz in Northwest Ohio to study jazz. And that has led me to an interesting place where I found, well, you know what? I've just now found myself realizing that from a long time ago, but I went to school for jazz, ended up not being a jazz musician as my profession, but moving and going into corporate life, working for a utility after selling audio video equipment for a short time. And I became kind of a jazz musician in corporate America, kind of. And in 1998, maybe that dates me, I started off in the best job in the world in IT. I think the best job in the world in IT is in the help desk, a good help desk, a good enterprise help desk, where for me, it's all about surprise. It's all about connecting with people. It's about empathy. It's about solving problems together. And I had support and togetherness and a feeling of ensemble, not teaming, but ensemble with this help desk. And I didn't know it at the time, but it felt right about being with people and receiving the spirit of people in conversation.
And if I may, so this is like from a jazz musician to an help desk in IT. And I need to do this because for those who follow the Dare Real Agile for at least 2 years and even more before, I did one in French, an explanation of how the Agile Manifesto was at this to be called the Jazz Manifesto. Because there were musicians among the 17 co-signatory, but the sports things of agile, being more agile in sport and scrum, and that, win over the music part of all the coordination and interaction of people is like a jazz orchestra, a big band or a quartet. So this is just amazing. And in my career over the 23 last year, the best scrum master servant leader are either musician or people from science. Really the mix of music and science, or maybe it is the universal language of music and mathematics. Anyway, so I was like, you really inspired me back to this kind of constants of the
Well,
music.
well, and so I'm going to go to today and what I know now as a result of this journey through jazz and through working the paycheck life for a utility. I was bought and sold as a consultant several times while I was working through this utility. So I was direct consultant, one company, consultant another. Eventually ended up IBM and was summarily, I left IBM. But so that life became this kind of a desire to be independent and to be free of that life, because after 20 years working in corporate in IT, I eventually discovered what it was like to be free and have choice of who I would affiliate with, what I would say and do, and who I would play with. What kind of music was I making with people in public? And I didn't know it at the time, but now it has come around that I feel like, well, this is about making music that we are with each other in companies, in teams. And I don't even like to call them teams anymore. We're in groups, we're in ensemble together with one another, being creative, creating, giving love to a product, not even a piece of art. We're making art. So that art is about this connection to our deepest humanity. And what if art and work, I mean, they are the same thing. Art, our craftsmanship and our work of art is this labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I mean, the story's a little bit disjointed, but now as you I'm bringing it together, is that, what is this all about? Why Agile? Why? It's so interesting that you're saying that there was this musical undertone from the signatories that I didn't realize that. But I think what I like to say that I do now is I'm like an organizational musicianship coach. That I want to help people in groups within organizations learn their song and be able to sing their song, so that the people who they care about will dance, that they will sing the tune, that the melody will move the people within a company and within an organization group, and will move the customers who want to give their love back and to share in that. And that to me is a deeper calling, a much more noble calling than to transact for money or economic gain.
All right.
The idea that now, after years of learning to be a jazz musician, letting that sink into my soul, living the paycheck life, doing IBM for 13 years, leaving and going and being my purple self in public, which is a different story.
Your purple self.
Being the purple squirrel in public, be more purple.
Oh,
it's a different story, but it means being rare, being valuable.
yeah, it's like a black swan. I imagine
like a black swan. Well, purple squirrel is like a purple cow, only more agile. Is the way I like to say it. And all of this is coming together now after this 20 years. I fell in love with Agile in 2015 when I was working for IBM, and this is the way to be. This feels so this is musical. This is so in tune with people being human together and doing work that matters and caring and individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Just like, pow, okay, great. Customer collaboration over contracts. Responding to change like a jazz musician would instead of following a plan, and working software over comprehensive documentation, an actual piece of music as opposed to a written composition.
So I see a keyboard and a guitar, I think it is, or a bass.
It's my bass.
It's your bass. Okay.
Bass guitar there.
So you're a real one, because I just play saxophone in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also djembe. I mean, like it's but I used to, when I was not enough interactive to be part of a trio or quartet. Because a lot of people think jazz is just like, oh, you play whatever you want and you just go random. It's chaos. That's why Agile and jazz have something similar. The perception of, oh, jazz is not like classical music, because those musicians, they just do whatever they want. I don't think so.
No, they don't. And this is what pisses me off so violently about when people say self-organization doesn't work, self-organization is a myth, blah blah blah, self-organizing teams are this. Well, chaos, just letting people run around like they don't have an idea or clue of what they're supposed to do and why to do it. Of course that's going to be unproductive, and that people who might not have the best heart and genuine intent would take advantage of that situation and make that happen. However, in the domain of jazz specifically, because that's what I know, there is a song structure, there is a melody, there is chord structure, there's the songs of this American Standard Jazz Songbook came from the musical Tin Pan Alley tradition, and these forms came to be known for years and years and years. And so yes, there's improvisation, but it's improvisation within a structure.
Exactly.
So you have your A section with the melody, then your melody repeated with the verse, then you have your bridge, then you have another A section, then you coda at the end, or and. So there is structure, and even in the forms of jazz that came out of the swing era to bebop, and that there was in the free jazz era, you still have a song structure. You still have people who are interacting deeply with one another, and maybe there's freedom there, and it's not for the musicians, but it is not chaos. It is designed within a structure, and the conversation, I think, that gets missed when people say self-organization is a myth, and is that, well, the authority distribution and the dynamic authorization of people based on a mastery, based on what are we doing at this time. If the organizational structure is in support of that, there's a connection to purpose, then within that structure, the most humane thing to do is to invite the players to create in accordance with each other in the spirit of collaboration. So not everybody is a jazz musician. Not every piece of music has to be a piece of jazz.
Exactly. Because I like this idea of talking about music for those 4 values of the Agile Manifesto, for instance, that are built. Because when you say there is a melodic aspect of it with a lot of improvisation and jazz compared to classical or baroque music, but at the meantime, the end result will give you something else. There's also a context that might be a cultural context, that might be a taste or a caring about things. So if you are a musician and if you're a meloman, you might be able, your bass, it could be used in jazz, but it could be used in rock and roll, it could be used with blues, it could be used also in pop music and what have you. It's only a tool. It's only an instrument. So, and I love to say, like, yeah, self-organizing team. It's you could see a team as a quartet. Are they all able to be part of a quartet? If you have like a contrabassist with a saxophonist, could they do? This is what we need to make your melody happen, or not? Or not? Do you need a drummer or a percussionist? So, who do you need to do this quartet? To actually, because a trio and a quartet is not always the same musician, right? Could be different type of.
It is a complete alignment with the metaphor.
Yeah.
What music are you trying to create? Who is it for? What's it for? Are you trying to compose a rock album with a quartet to sell 1 million copies to teenagers? Yeah. Or are you a jazz trio really wanting to connect with each other to 10 people in a cafe and
yeah. Or and to jam with exploring what if I do this B melody and he goes on to the C things and back and forward, like the magic happens.
Yeah. And every organization has its own set of instrumentalists. They have their own style of music, their own genre, their own history of that this is the Beethoven sonatas and symphonies and quartets and all that stuff. And that, well, let's say you are some, oh God, I do not want to use a bank, but let's say let's say it is Bank of America. What kind of music is Bank of America making?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the kind of music that you wish to listen to as a consumer? Are the musicians within that company, are they in spirit with the music? Are they loving what they do so much that you can feel the love when you consume that product that is whatever?
Yeah. And in my last trip, I met with a very nice gentleman. Probably will become a new friend, a new collaborator in business, my travel agency business and stuff like this. Because I'm just doing like Agile, doing a lot of entrepreneurial thing. And the funny thing is, we start talking about music because music, it's a unifying thing. It's the food for the soul, and everybody loves music or some sort of music. And at some point, discovering that he's also a DJ, he's playing stuff, and what he loves is the synth pop of the 1980s, like New Order, Pet Shop Boys, Depeche Mode, and stuff like this. And of course, we're talking about like this new tour of Depeche Mode with the 15th album, Memento Mori. The title is very like Memento Mori. Remember that you're gonna die. It's amazing. For those who don't know Latin, I just kind of free translate the Memento Mori. It's remember that you're gonna end your life here. And the album, I've got shivers right now because I just listened to the album 3 times yet, and it's amazing. And since Violator of 1991, I never like very Depeche Mode that evolved, but they bring you back into this synth pop. But the lesson here, when you were talking about the bank, I have a set of instrumentalists. So I tell him, and he has a bar in Jalisco, it's a state of Mexico, where they play only 1980s synth pop, including Tangerine Dream, exploration of things and stuff. Yeah, I mean, but I asked him like, oh, but do you like jazz or do you like? No, I'm just loving the 1980s, Human League and stuff. Okay. He loves synth pops. He loves this kind of thing, and he concentrates and he focuses on that. So if you go to his bar in my Spanish here, like Guadalajara, you expect to have only 1980s synth pop type of DJ who play on vinyl, by the way, not DJing with. So it's kind of amazing, but this is this kind of taste, and they care about it, they love it, so the outcome will be awesome if we let them do this. But if you and I, we have a project of doing a band, mostly probably more jazz or maybe with a tint of blues, we might not be able to hire this nice gentleman. He's very nice, but he only play electronic keyboard. So if we don't have in our project the need of adding this synth pop into our jazz melody, you cannot be part of a team, because we talk about self-organizing team, but me, I prefer to bring it to self-management. And how do we build a team according to the shared vision that we might have? Now we talk about a musical band, And remember Freddie Mercury back in the day, he says like Bohemian Rhapsody, it's a perfect example, I think, of innovation, creating something that's never been done, so disrupting the market. And that song, correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably a better musician than I, but this song has three different musical approach, tone. You have this kind of classical music, and then all of a sudden it comes to the pop, and then it's finished with rock and roll, I think, if I remember properly. Even the Beach Boy with another song, they haven't like yet performing. It's three type of music within the song. Bohemian Rhapsody, I think for me, it's wow.
Yeah. And there's another point here too, is that, well, not everyone wants to be or cares to be a musician. And that musicians, as they make music, who are they making the music for? The listeners, the dancers, and who is providing the stage for you to play the live music? Who is paying for the studio for you to record the music? And when you are a musician, when are you composing? Who's writing the tune? All of these things are different kinds and acts of leadership and acts of organization, and this idea of people coming together for different purposes. They are organizing. And if they're organizing of their own volition and they are choosing how to affiliate, that's what I would call self-organization. Yep. But the point is, and I could go on for a while, but in that, not that if you say self-organizing is a myth, it's wrong. It's the wrong thing to do. Well, how are you defining self-organization? Is a team is throwing a team together in chaos, saying you figure it out, and we're not going to give you any direction.
Like I did 23 years ago with engineers. They asked me to become their scrum master. As management asked me to be the project manager. And the engineer, they said like, no F way. That was 1999. They said like, no, we need to do that scrum thing that was emerging. I think Crystal Metal was there already, or the extreme programming was already there, but I mean, they said like, no, we don't need a project manager. This is not a project. We have too many unknowns. So that was the unknowns of the new JavaScript or the Java language that was starting up back then. So, and these guys were programming on PHP before. So sorry for the non-technical people who are listening, but we have a moment here. So they say like, we cannot do a beginning and a end with, it's not a project. It needs to be empirical, and we need to organize ourselves. So management asks you to be a PM? No way. You're going to be our SM. Here's a book that I have behind me from Ken Schreiber and Mike Beadle. Read this. Let's gather together next week and let's see if we could build that Scrum team.
Well, this is you being an ensemble with them.
Yeah. And I accept their challenge and I accept their demand. They were not requesting it. They were demanding it. And I know in English, that word have a big demand. It's something like, and they said like, we don't care about management. We are the SME here, the subject matter expert. We are here to create those new software, this new website, because remember, like back at the 1999, 2000, it were like static HTML, PHP website that had to be more transactional and stuff. So they said like, no way. We have to create a learning space of coding with this new feature, these new codes and stuff. So and we hide ourselves for 1 year from IT VP and all of this. They didn't know we were doing Scrum. Can you imagine that? So there were no invitation. We don't care about being invited at that moment. We did that.
Well, true. And that it sounds to me like that group, those were not junior programmers.
There were some software developer more junior, but they were mentored by two architect and engineer. They were engineer in programmation. They said like, we need to do this that way. We need to experimenting with these new way of uncovering new way. And I bet you not, that was 3 years before the Manifesto. So no matter why, those 17 guys opened the manifesto with we uncovering new ways or better ways to deliver software development and teach it to others. It was already those two guys, they could have been at the table of this meeting. And I thank them 23 years later because they opened my mind. I was just a CX designer mapping call centers and call centers that were becoming more multi-channel. And all of a sudden they said like, oh, we're going to do training software and a new type of CRM type of capability. You're not a project manager. You got to do Scrum with us. And Scrum was not even agile. That was the lean thinking. That was the very like, they requested to management to have a closed room just for us with a big wall of Post-it. I mean, like that was the real thing. I loved it. And I learned with them. And because when you talk about self-organization, do you put them in chaos or whatever? So management didn't believe in lean or even that what's coming agile after that. They didn't know about Scrum. I didn't even know myself about Scrum. Only those two guys, sort of. They just heard of something that was being pulled out in the software industry. More powerful than extreme programming. That's what they say. Anyways, so, but self-organizing, for me, it's one thing. But what about self-management? Do you do a difference? Or it's...
Well, I think these are all words for we're trying to make sense of the behavior that's happening.
Yeah.
And we call it something different. What it is that, so again, to manage, to control oneself, right? We all self-manage. Are you managing me? How are you managing me? I know.
Yeah.
But
I manage you because if I'm the business owner, this is my business. I've got a big ego. I invested in this venture. So you work for me, not with me. And I'm going to manage your time when you work for me. So words, again, so we are self-managed, we are responsible adults, but how much are we imposed into the workplace to be at the services of others and think less and do more? Huh? It's always like, I'm doing it on purpose to.
Well, no. But you're making the point that at that point in time, and to in many ways and places today, I mean that happens. That's the whole idea of agile, safe, Scrum, whatever being imposed. And saying, okay, so we know this gets twice the work in half the time, and we want you to do that. And again, boy, I'll bet he regrets the title of that book.
Yes,
I bet.
That was for time to market, not for productivity. So that's the
and that's the whole point of a word. Like, does the word mean what you think it means?
Agile. Yeah, I love it. Look at that, guys. Sorry for the podcaster. You have to come to my Rumble and YouTube channel to see it. But Ryan have a beautiful T-shirt. And it's from which movie again?
Is from the movie The Princess Bride.
Oh, The Princess Bride.
The character that was played by Mandy Patinkin in Princess Bride. His name's Inigo Montoya, and Inigo Montoya, the character, he was in this band of adventurers, and one of the guys he would say, "That's inconceivable." And every time something crappy happened and he didn't expect, that's inconceivable. And then in Inigo Montoya, he says, you keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. So,
and now you create a meme for your T-shirt with Agile. Yeah, you replace inconceivable by Agile.
Agile. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Oh, no,
and that is to say, if you can't communicate what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it, what does Agile mean anyway? If that is not a story that can be told within your then you got two people singing off the different song sheet, singing that one's on playing bluegrass, one's playing heavy metal, and you got violinists with saxophonists and or timpani players trying to play, zydeco. It's like, ugh, no. This band is the Beatles, and we are the Beatles. This is the Who. We're playing rock and roll, and I'm playing this tune. You're playing that tune, or that's what does Agile mean? Are we talking about Agile? We're talking about the 4 values. We're talking about 12 principles. What do they mean? Right?
Yeah.
What
do they imply to do?
What do they imply? What are they inviting?
Yeah.
What kind of behaviors do those? Why are we doing this Agile thing? Because we want to uncover better ways of doing what we're doing. If it's developing software.
Yeah, and remember, Agile, it's mostly an adjective. It's not a noun. Last time I checked in Merriam-Webster and even Harper's, because I know I'm not native English, but please.
Sure.
So Agile seems to be an adjective in French as well and in Spanish as well. So it's not a noun. If it's a noun, now it's another story.
Yeah.
But so as an adjective, we'd like to be more agile, meaning with uncovering new ways or better ways, which mean that it's because classical project management, it's not always suitable to deliver a product, a services, because that's the thing also they kind of, the only thing they will correct is one of the 4 values. It's not a walking software anymore. It's a walking whatever we try to bring into the world. That could be also a services. But the thing is, and more now, what I see, it's people want to have an experience. So it's all about the customer and user experience. You could have the best product out there if nobody knows how to use it and they have a bad experience.
Who cares?
Who cares? Exactly. So, but of course, in classical project management, they will have phase, stage, and they will realize this may be too late with a lot of money expend, no empirical process, no improvement, no nothing. So, but then again, it might work also in a more classical approach because
and when you're building buildings and when you're manufacturing known quantities of materials into other materials through a manufacturing process. So you mean to tell me that the work that we do by crafting bits into abstracted languages with data and all those things, is that really the same thing as manufacturing an automobile?
Yeah.
I don't think so. And it never was.
Yep.
So, and maybe that's what frustrates me so much about this idea that it's be agile. Well, oh, wait a second. Why are we doing this? Who is that agility for? And what's it for? Why?
Yeah.
And this is what happened to me. And then when I came back to the workforce after a couple of years, recovering from cancer, and I had cancer right before COVID, and that when I recovered, and my final treatment was right in the peak of COVID uncertainty in May 2020. So I went into the hole. So my life blew apart in May of 2019 with this cancer diagnosis, and Agile. Who the cares about Agile and when you get cancer? And then I come back out and what? This in May of 2020, thinking the world didn't make sense anymore, and now it doesn't make the same. It's things have changed, but there's something different, and the thing that's different is now there's this taste of freedom. There's this taste of freedom.
You mean personally plus collectively, because you went to this traumatic experience of being sick yourself while the world was also sick, if I could say that like this. And now the ones are please, I know a lot of my listeners, some don't believe there was a real pandemic. So I don't want to go there. We are speaking humanly here, and you have a traumatic experience for yourself having cancer. Right. You have to fight cancer. And the old globe was going out into some time of tragedy. And could we say that, are we out of it yet? Because it seems like it's the last 3 years, as you mentioned, showed us how much fragile we all are. How
And
much
what
grief we are not that resilient as we think we were. And we could face even more, collectively speaking, things to come with uncertainty. The VUCA now it's seems to reign. And for those who don't know VUCA again, it's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, where everything could be simple, guys. And A, it's what again?
ambiguity.
Thank you. Sorry. Ambiguity. Yes, ambiguity. You fog everything, so
Mhm.
you are not creative anymore. So
And I think this is where the as before I got sick and I was preaching Agile to the world, I thought I was in love with Agile. Well, I started cheating with Agile because I started cheating on Agile because I met my true love in
Rich.
2018, which was open space
Oh,
technology.
the grandfather of agility, actually.
That well as
Sort of.
yeah, sort of, and there's stories that open space was there in the room, and that there was space open for those four values, and that those statements to come, and that, and so that was 2018 and my first open space. I had no idea. The Scrum trainer Joe Little, who I got my CSM from in 2017, Joe had been sponsoring an open space, 2 open spaces a year and then in 2018 April, I went to my first one. It's like, what is this thing? I'm gonna go because someone said it was great. I go and it's so simple, but it was so beautiful and it was so human.
What's the four rule of open space again? I love it.
Well, and then the simplicity, the structure is really simple. It's sit in a circle, put up a bulletin board with all the issues that people care about, open up a marketplace where you can figure out what makes sense, who's going to talk about what, where, and what are we going to do about this stuff, and then you get to work and do it. And because you have put up a bulletin board with all the issues that are there in the room that you care about and you want to have something happen with them. And that's what that if the space is closed where no one gets to talk and no one gets to say what they care about, what you're opening is in that circle. You're saying this bulletin board is a picture of our passion and responsibility. And in open space, that after you do the bulletin board, you open the marketplace and you start the sessions and get to work. That's where you have the 5 principles of whoever comes to your session, that's the right people. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. Wherever it happens is the right place, whether it happens in the room, before the room, on the phone, kind of around there. But if it's in your theme, wherever it happens, it's the right place. Whenever it starts is the right time. That could be 2 minutes early. Maybe it's a minute after, whatever. Who cares? It starts, it's going. There's passion, responsibility, talk. And when it's over, it's over. And that could be if everybody has got their spirit out of the room and have taken responsibility. I'm going to do this stuff related to this topic. Then it's over. 5 minutes and you're done. Or when it's not over, it's not over. If you're there for an hour and people are still around this issue, go with it.
Yeah.
And the 5 principles, and there's one law. And the one law is the law. Now we call it the law of mobility. The law of mobility. Okay. It used to be the law of 2 feet. So in online spaces, we call it the law of 2 clicks. But what that means is that if you are neither learning or teaching, either giving value or receiving it, if you're not part of that, get out of the way. Go somewhere else, because if you are not learning or teaching, giving or receiving, you are messing with the spirit of what's happening. Because if I'm in the room, I'm talking to you about this project in this way, delivering it to these people for this, all this stuff. And I got somebody in the room who just is a toad on a log. Get them out. and because go where you want to be. Don't. This is not a place for you to just be. I am obligated to be here and sit.
Huh.
No. So that's like this. That's what open space was about. The energy of it. And my first open space, the session I called was about vulnerability.
Oh,
And what I did is I went to. So I said, I love this thing. I wrote my bit on the circle and said, I'm going to talk about vulnerability, and I'm going to go here at this time. And I went to the room, and I immediately put myself on my back on the floor, staring at the ceiling. And then people came in. More people came in. More people came in, and I'm still on the floor, staring at the ceiling in silence.
were you at that moment a participant or
I was a
facilitator?
convener. I was a participant, but I had convened that session to say,
Okay,
I want
Was it-
to take responsibility for this conversation about vulnerability.
Was it still when you were working at IBM or was somewhere else?
This was after.
After?
Well, it was around the time that IBM ended for me in 2018.
Okay.
So, but it was a public open space, and that is different than what happens inside an organization when you do open space. So, so that's a tangent, but all this is that was the music for me. That's when it all started to make sense.
And for those who don't know this open space movement, when people also call a fishbowl meeting or circular, is it the same thing? Is it inspired by open space or what they call open space technology, or
I think it's a maybe a variant. I mean, I don't know much of the history of the fishbowl, but the fishbowl being that you have the people in authority, that they have a conversation and it is witnessed by everybody.
Yeah. That's what I.
But that's different. It comes from a different tradition. The open space technology tradition is derived from, and some would say stolen, or it was discovered when Harrison Owen was in Africa, and he was on his missionary work in Africa. And this is, well, when we're in communities of indigenous cultures, what do? They sit in a circle. They have a bulletin board where they get what people care about, and they figure it out. They have the marketplace where they say, well, whatever. And then, okay, all right, now go get it done. It's like the most lightly facilitated event that you can think of. So.
Yeah, actually, what I remember when Beadle and Shutterland and Schwaber, they taught me about what happened that weekend at Snowbird. That was an open space of 17 guys at war with each other of what is the best process framework and blah, blah, blah. And they decided to gather together to say, like, could we have a shared value or something? They didn't meant to do a manifesto. They were just gathering together to figure that out, what could bring them together and to make some noise in the industry because that was like 2001 and the dot-com crash happened and anybody was happy with the turnout, whatever. So, and that was prior to 9/11, of course. It was February 2001. But anyway, so that was like, and so we could get that, but that was an open space. The way, especially Mike told me that, it was like, oh, we gather in a circle with a whiteboard and we start discussing and stuff. That was it. And, I've got another business where we do some other type of training and anyway, and we do, inspired by Carl Gustav Jung, what we call the shadow hunting. And the shadow hunting are what you kind of describe as an open space, because the right person will be the right person. It starts when it starts. And we invite people. You could be in a circle, not participating, or you could be in the inner circle and try to heal yourself. And it's the same thing with the Nahuatl nation and the Waki. The Waki are northern Mexico. The Nahuatl are more in the center mountain of the Sierra Leone. And they used to, because I love when you explain about the tribe of Africa, same in South America, where people gather and we call it open space. That's funny because it's open to anyone to create that space, and let's move on. And the Temazcal, it's also a circle where you heal yourself. There's also an healing proposition here of your spirit with your body and everything. So I don't know how much, maybe I'm becoming too much spiritual and the stuff, but for me, I connect the dots. The human experience, it's all connected to me. It's not only materialistic or business wise. I think business always inspired themselves to do things from the world, the real world. I don't know.
And what is the real world anyway? And
I don't
that's
know.
and this is to me, and you talk about creating space.
Yeah.
So and this is part of what's coming to me now after a couple of years of independent gigs and the economy going crazy and things happening, and now me searching again. It is more and more about, I want to create, open, and hold spaces that are loving, anti-fragile, and brave for liberation of the human spirit. So that's a core, and I borrow this from, I heard this phrase from a dear friend of mine, Marikila, and when she said that to me, that's what open space is really about, is that sense of liberation of the human spirit. And absolutely, and when you do that, what happens when humans are together with one another in spirit for a purpose and dealing with that they truly care about? That's the magic. That is, I mean, there's so many things that have come into my world about. I really don't care much about how you build software or how you develop products, or whether or not what you speak into YouTube, as we are doing here now, it gets chewed up by a large language model and spit back out.
Yeah.
What I care about, what really matters, is how will we thrive in togetherness, with each other, with unconditional respect for the personal sovereignty and human dignity of the other. So that no matter what you believe or what you might think, that if we can be together as human beings in this space, in this time together, that is the magic. That's the point of us being on this fucking planet. Is it for us to be together with one another and not to other each other, and not to other each other, but it is to come together and I don't wish to make you different from me. I want to be with what unites us and that we might create together.
It is really the purpose, because let me give you another perspective, from another point of view. Let's say that you and I were walking in a valley, and there's a hill in front of us. Well, you're coming from the south, I'm coming from the east. So I see that it's going to be easy for me from the east to go up the hill. And we're talking on walkie-talkie or phone, and you said, no, come to my road on the south. It's even easier. So I said, okay, I trust and I respect Ryan's opinion and point of view. So let's go meet him on the south way of this hill. And then my point of view of this, climbing the hill from the south, I said, like, no, fuck, man. The east side was a lot more easier according to my perspective. So, okay, so now we are together. And now you try to call other people from the north, from the west, and let's come all from the south. And interesting. And now everybody is agreeing with me that, no, my north way was easier to climb than the south way. So now we start inviting each other from the north, the west, the south, and everything, to realize that at the end of the day, we spend so many time talking about from which side of the hill we're going to get out of the valley before the flood's coming. There's a flood also coming, and that's why we need to go to the hill. And I tell you that story from my psychedelic years and my teaching from the Waukee Nation, because we are on Earth because of what we care for. And that's amazing when you say, and you even did a gesticulation of let's coming together. because I think I see this planet or this dimension, call it whatever you like, as a way for maybe because I don't know shit, but maybe a supposition of
I don't either.
a real primordial love or of a real consciousness that
Hmm.
need to split itself into billions and billions of creation or human being, animals, plant, what have you, to experience diversity.
Hmm.
And the funny thing that we do is we try to become oneness again. We try to be together again. And unfortunately, it came with control and position, one way track. And at the same time, those of us who remember that it was kind of boring in the other world because we were alone, and I split myself, I split my consciousness into these billions of experience to experience diversity. And so, why is this guy or this woman want us to be in the oneness again? And so, here the fight start, here the perspective start, and here's the mystery of life or no life. Memento mori, remember?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so we have to escape nihilism because at some point, some of us say, like, okay, fuck it. I have enough. So let's be nihilists. There's nothing new, anyways. And so we give up and we just wait. Is it one of the solutions? I don't know. You make me think beyond all, as you said, I don't care. Me too. And even my client to this day, I do a lot of prospection call right now. They don't care about being agile, waterfall, all of these things. They just care of experiencing life and making money for their stakeholders or shareholders. What I say, whatever. Is it the game? Is it the rule of the game? Just making money in the material realm. But what about this perspective? Why are we here? And what is the human interaction? And what is it? And
What?
these questions could lead us to being nihilist. And that's why Nietzsche prevent us. Be careful, guys. Don't destroy the world too much of
Hmm.
this purpose, and embrace at least your caring purpose. The
Hmm.
floor is yours. I'm sorry.
No, that's and it is the core questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What do we want? We don't
Yeah.
have to be the same, and and we don't want to be the same, but we can be individuals together for mutual benefit. If we can we agree? Oh, do we what is the goal? Are we seeking a same goal? Do we want the same things? I don't want the same things that you do. You don't want the same things that I do,
Yeah.
but some things we do want together. And I mean, this is so simple, right? Isn't it so simple to say, I respect you, I want to listen to you and understand what it is that you want and why you want it, and be able to say, that's okay. I don't want that, and I want something else, but I'm not going to harm you. I am not
Mm.
going to I am not going to impose my desire, my way to walk up the hill in this way on you. I will offer my help if you want it, and I will ask if you need it. But no, I how dare I assume to tell you what to do? I will. This is why invitation is important. I
Mhm.
would invite